Get started with introductions. I'm Kayla, the CQV Career Catalyst Ambassador, and I'm very excited to be here today with John. Before we get started, I want to thank our sponsors for today's session, Workforce Genetics and BioTrack. Workforce Genetics has been helping to connect talent with high-performing teams for over 20 years, now powered by AI, making it faster and easier for growth-oriented, venture-backed life science companies to build great teams without the hassle or cost of traditional recruiting firms. And as always, a big thank you to BioTrack for sponsoring today's session as well. I also want to mention that this event is part of the BioBuzz Talent Lab, which is your one-stop shop for career growth, job opportunities, and industry connections. Join our Talent Lab today for more opportunities like this. John brings nearly 2 decades of experience in the life sciences industry with an impressive career spanning validation engineering, commissioning qualification, and project management across the pharmaceutical, biotech, and medical device sectors. Currently, he is the Maryland Regional Manager at ValSource with leading consulting efforts to help industry achieve effective compliant processes. And he will be speaking today about his passion for mentorship and the human-to-human factor, particularly in CQV. So we're very happy to have you, John. Please take it away.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. It's great to be here and talk about something that is played a huge role in my life on the receiving end and the giving end, I would say, in many ways. So on my first slide, I put here, where would I be without you? All right. So many people in my life have played a very important role in leading to me becoming who I am today and also where I am in my career. So I hope that by the end of this session, I'm going to try to mix in some personal stories and keep to the content as much as I can and try to stay and short enough to allow for some discussion and Q&A at the end. I want it to be casual. And hopefully have some good interactions at the end of the session. So 3 key takeaways that I would like for us to have from this as far as mentoring goes is seek to be mentored, seek to mentor and grow from others' experiences and your own, right? So you can really double your level of expertise and experience when you are well connected with people in a mentoring relationship or a mentee relationship, right? Both ways, you're going to double the amount of takeaway and experience that you can tap from for CQV, which is specifically what we're talking about today. I love this image here in the middle where the guy's watering the plant and the other guy. I thought that was really clever and a good depiction of mentorship. So I want to give some statistics on mentoring, right? There's a lot of, I would say there's myths out there and misnomers around mentoring. And I kind of wanted to give everyone some specific numbers and statistics on what a benefit mentoring is and having a mentoring program. So you can see I pulled this from a website called mentorloop.com. And they pull their information from Wharton School, LinkedIn Learning Reports, and CNBC. So that's where these statistics came from as I was doing my research. So I'll kind of lay these out basically from the top, right? Retention rates are 72% among mentees for companies, 69% for mentors versus 49% who are not mentored or mentee in a company. So that's a significant increase, especially for, if you're not enrolled in a mentorship program, 49% is a much lower retention rate than 70%. So 94% of employees will stay longer if they are involved in some form of mentorship, which is pretty amazing. In the pharmaceutical industry, especially CQV industry, you have projects come and go and people pop up and come and go. But I thought that was a really interesting statistic of how many people will retain and stay if they have a mentor relationship. More than 4 in 10 workers without mentors have considered quitting in the last 3 months versus 25 with mentors. Another great statistic, 40% versus 25%. It just helps when you have someone that cares enough to pour into you, like that image in my first slide, right? Helps you stay longer. It helps you learn. It helps you grow. And then as you're talking about it, I often call it like marinating on something, right? When, say you're commissioning an air handler for the first time, what I always tell my people to do is read the protocol, read the URS, and just marinate over it for a while, understand the intent of it, the point of it, what you're trying to do, so that makes what you do in the field so much easier. And that naturally happens when you have a mentor or a mentee relationship. You begin to marinate and think a little longer on things that you're learning and doing. 91% of workers with mentors report being happy. 57% are even very satisfied in their career. I always tell people that work for me or that I work with that the most important thing of retention, I would say, is the people you work with. It is so critical that we are getting along with the people we work with, that we treat each other with respect, right? Mentorship, and I would say whether you're a mentor or a mentee, takes a level of humility on both sides. Understanding that no mentor knows everything, right? They're going to share with you the experiences they've had. They're going to share with you the lessons they've learned, and hope that maybe you can avoid some pitfalls that could be coming. What kind of career decisions and advice they could offer as you develop. Then as a mentee, you have to be humble and receive advice. If you have a mentor or are seeking a mentor and they give you good practical advice, one of the things I will tell people that I'm mentoring is, hey, here's the ISBE baseline guide for commissioning and qualification. Begin reading over it. Write down questions as you go through it, and we'll sit down and talk about it. If I'm taking the time to pour into someone and I give them a simple task like that and they don't do it, it starts to get frustrating, right? It starts to fizzle a little bit. It takes a level of humility and devotion from both sides to really engage and benefit from a mentorship. So seek to be mentored. For the younger people in the industry, really doesn't matter. It's kind of relative. In my point, I've been doing CQV for about 19 years. I still have mentors and people that I consider a mentor to me. But what do you look for when you need a mentor and you're seeking to grow? Maybe you're right out of college. Maybe you are, in a new role. Like say you switched from CSV and the opportunities come your way from computer software validation to equipment validation. And you're like, I'm excited about this, but I need to know more before I jump in. These are great times to seek a mentor and seek advice. So what you want to do is target someone with great work ethic, right? That's number one. You don't want to target someone who has spotty attendance to work. You don't want to target someone who is doing the bare minimum. You want to grow. So if you partner with someone who doesn't and is like more of a bare minimum minded person, they may not have a whole lot to offer you, right? Target someone who has more experience than you. Kind of some of this is very practical and common sense, but you want someone who has sort of been a trailblazer in some way, where you're looking for, hey, I'm heading in this direction. I see a lot of weeds and pitfalls and pits. How, do you have advice that you can help me get through this process? Personally, years ago, I had the privilege of working with someone who was in the industry for about 35 years. And they were an electrical engineer, and they had segued their way in their career to become, a quality engineer. And quality engineers are really neat people to interact with, because they understand both the quality side and the engineering side. So I would say he started in validation probably in the early 90s. When I was much younger. Not anywhere in any industry, but was kind of laying the groundwork for, what is validation? What is CQV? Validation CQV started as a fulfillment of FDA regulations, right? How we document, what we declare to be in a system that is fit for its intended use. And, from those requirements from 21 CFR Part 11 in the regulations, grew validation and the CQV industry, where we are fulfilling those requirements for our company we work for, or, our clients. So this gentleman was a huge, just to get practical with you again, was a huge impact in my life. And I probably annoyed him with questions. As long as you have someone who has the time and the availability, pepper them with the questions that you have. Be specific. If you can do it while you are working is a fantastic thing. Because you both can as long as you both can get your work done, and you can have conversations about, what we're doing and why, right? This gentleman, I would say, was kind of where I wanted to go at the time. I was coming out of having my own LLC, where I was, sort of starting and thinking about growing my own business at the time for validation and calibration. And he had done it. He'd done it for like 15 years of his career. He had up to like 30 or 40 people working for him in his company. So he was kind of where I wanted to be, right, as a professional. He was managing, several people across several different companies and sites across the country. And I saw that and I was like, yeah, that's where I want to be. So tell me what you know. Tell me how you got there. That's kind of, how that happened. And then I worked with him for about, I would say 2 to 3 years. We were at the same client, and I was the CQV project manager. He was the QA role in the capital projects that we were executing. So it was very convenient, worked out well, right? And I'll talk a little bit further about a formal mentorship program versus like informal. Most of mine has been more informal that I've been able to benefit from. So it's a little harder often in industry to find a formal mentoring program. But again, I'll talk about that a little later. So again, I kind of talked about ask questions while you're working together. They can be adjacent to what you're doing, or they can be outside. So again, like reiterating the humility aspect of mentorship and mentoring, right? If you are accountable or responsible for reporting to someone that wants you to know certain things, they might not be a great mentor to ask basic questions. Go to someone who and trust that is adjacent, I would say, not someone that is you're accountable to for answers and execution, if you have questions. Some questions would be like, how did you learn so much about X, right? Hey, I see that you have like so much experience, and you're looked at as a high level person in computer system validation. How did you get there? We all know that in CQV, there's really not a CQV degree. No one comes out of college knowing exactly what CQV is and how to do it, and understanding how it's done at every single company, right? Every company we go to is a little bit different. So questions are fine. How do you commission an air handler, right? I've done CTUs, controlled temperature units. I've done bioreactors. How do you do an air handler and utilities? How do you commission that? Just start the ball rolling. And it doesn't even have to be what you're doing immediately. I just was always very curious and very hungry to learn as much as I could, as fast as I could. So I might be doing, commissioning a compressed air system. But there's a lot of stuff happening in the project. There's a air handler over there. There's a chilled water system over there. There's a freeze thaw system over there. And just, be hungry to learn and all, and not afraid to be curious and ask about other projects, even if they're not yours, just for the learning aspect and the growing side of it. Another question you could ask is, how do you know if you're testing everything adequately? Right? If you're younger in the industry and you're given, here's this validation protocol. Okay, I can follow it, but how do I know if this is all inclusive of the system, right? Grab a mentor, grab your senior person that can kind of speak down to your level and explain, well, it's because of the URS, right? Is everything in that validation protocol covering the URS, what the user is requiring it to do. And just have these conversations, right? Be humble. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Sometimes people trip up because they're afraid that someone will know that they don't know something, right? Those moments are inevitable in our careers. We all will encounter things that we either A, have never accounted for or been confronted with, or B, it's just something new and different, a new technology, right? Especially with AI. I know Kayla talks a lot about AI. AI is the new frontier, right? So we're all going to start seeing things that are new to us. So, it's really good to maintain relationships you have. And I say that on both sides, right? The people that you have mentored, as well as people that have mentored you, because you can tap each other's knowledge as you grow and go through your career, which is, it's very enjoyable. Another question you can ask is, should I take any trainings and invest in myself in any way? Right? Mentoring is generally not a paid activity that you do, formal or informal. It's something that you sort of volunteer yourself and commit yourself to really grow on your own, to become a better asset to your company, to become a better asset to either the people that you work for and report to, or the people that you are training or down below. Read the FDA regulations, 21 CFR Part 11. That's what I did when I first started. I would go home at night and take, paper copies of, 21 CFR Part 11. I would crack open the regulations and start to read them. Same thing with like ISB has fantastic guides on C&Q, right? They have a baseline guide for commissioning qualifications. Fantastic. Most companies' programs are very much, or at least loosely, based off of those regulations. So that's one of the things that I recommend people that I mentor is, hey, take this, read through it, and bring me all the questions you have, and we'll sit down and talk about it. Question I asked my mentor from years ago is, how did you learn so much about the regulations? The regulations can be hard to read at times because they're general. So this gentleman, again, 35 years experience, how did you translate that into a practical application, right? How did you turn, the FDA says your equipment needs to be fit for its intended use. How did you turn that into proof and evidence that it is, right? These are really, really good questions to know why we do what we do, and to gain, a deeper understanding of it from someone who's been doing it for several years and has encountered many different situations. And then if you're really new to life sciences, I love my college graduates that I work with, that I hire. I feel like many times they're smarter than I am. So what do I have to offer? I have experience that I offer them, right? And I really enjoy talking about, like, what's the point of what we're doing in CQV? Why are we doing this? Why is validation a thing, an industry, a career? What can it do for you, right? So these are a lot of the conversations I have with people when I'm looking to hire them out of college, or I hire them and start working with them in the field, and we have these conversations, which is great. So continuing, so how do you do it, right? Because you can't always communicate with your mentor on the job. Say your mentor is actually in a different building than the one you work in. So it becomes very hard for you to go talk to them when you have work to do and they have work to do. One of the things that I find that is a super effective way is to go grab coffee with them at lunch, before or after work. Have dinner. I love coffee houses because they just create a really open and good ambiance, right? To have these conversations, to just focus and get deep. It's hard to do it at work also because there's so many distractions. You've got emails popping up, you've got Teams chats popping up, and sometimes it's hard to have a concentrated conversation on, hey, I want to pour into you right now some of what I know, but let's chat for an hour. Go grab coffee, go grab dinner. Ask if they're willing and able to share with you what they're doing, right? In the busy work situation, do they have time? Hey, I'd like to just kind of trail you today for a couple hours. My supervisor said it's okay. You know, they like that I'm interested in doing, you know, this other activity. So do you mind if I trail along with you for a minute? Of course, you have to make sure you have accesses and trainings and things in place. That's a little more complicated. But that's another way you can do it, is just shadow someone, a mentor, or even someone. Say you're a level 1 and you work with a supervisor or a level 3. Hey, let me see how you validate that software. I haven't done a whole lot of that. Just give me a few pointers. Another thing that I do and I greatly enjoy is going to industry events. ISPE has a group called Mugs and Mentors, and it is for this very activity. It might be at a brewery, it might be at a conference venue, something where they will set people up in groups. They'll have mentors and mentees, and they'll have a few questions that they'll ask and give you a chance to bounce off ideas and questions off of someone more senior than you, and vice versa. PDA has good events, and this is like even just rubbing shoulders with people at these events and venues. BioBuzz, obviously you're here at BioBuzz, is awesome. And so forth. But any of these events are great to, you know, you never know when you could just kind of rub shoulders with someone and a mentor mentee relationship develops just from keeping in touch. They're great when people provide those experiences for us. Get back to more statistics, and I think I'm doing pretty good on time, so that's good. This is now going to kind of focus more on a mentor and mentoring as opposed to being a mentee. So I said give back and get more. I've often found that as I mentor, it challenges me to go deeper in what I know and learn more or refresh, and that helps me as well as in my roles that I have. So 25% of mentees had a salary grade change versus 5 without mentoring, right? These statistics again are from mentorloop.com, and they pulled it from the Wharton School. 20% of mentors had a salary grade change versus 5% without mentoring, right? So you see 25% mentees have a salary grade change, 28% of mentors had a salary grade change. So that's pretty awesome. So you can see that it's mutually beneficial to have a mentee or a mentor. You benefit both ways. Mentors were promoted 6 times more often than non-participants. This is interesting because I think one of the great things about being a mentor is it causes you to focus on what you know, focus on what you're doing. You're naturally going to try to explain to someone the best way to do something, right? Because that's what you're trying to do. And I think as you mentor people, you sort of like really fine tune and sharpen your own skills. So that happens. And I think that leads to 6 times percent of mentor, 6 times more often they get promoted. People with mentees were promoted 5 times more often than non-participants. The same deal. So it's almost 50-50, right? It's almost equal, the benefits to being a mentor and a mentee. There's some misnomers that happen sometimes around being a mentor and sharing, your insider secrets, what you do, right? One of the myths to being a mentor, I would say, is when you mentor, you risk your position or career path, right? Well, if I tell someone everything I know, then they're going to know what I do. What if they take my job, right? Which I think it's kind of irrational. When you look at the statistics that I shared earlier, you can see that what happens when you mentor and when you really pour into someone everything you know is you both come up higher. It isn't a one person grows and the other one doesn't. One person gets promoted and the other one doesn't. It's a very mutual experience of growth. So years ago, ValSource, we had a managers conference, and our CEO, who is fantastic, one of the things that she said was, we need to start replacing ourselves in people, right? We need to start, pouring into the new people we hire and pour that culture into them, pour that knowledge and experience that we have into them. because it just makes them grow so much faster. Again, it's like the watering can. When you're replacing yourself, you're really pouring into someone who is oftentimes, and as long as they're interested, they're very fertile ground, and they'll grow. Another myth: it needs to be formal and program based. I think it's awesome when places have a formal mentoring program. If where you work has one, I would participate for sure. If you're younger in your career, find a mentor. If you're experienced in your career, find a mentee. It's awesome and enjoyable, but it doesn't have to be formal. Again, in my career, most of my mentoring situations were very informal. Again, why I love the idea of going to a coffee house and just grabbing coffee and having an informal conversation of like, hey, I'm struggling in my career. I don't know what next step I should take. I'm stuck doing, X, but I would like to do Y and Z also. How can I position myself to learn more and go in a different direction? Is awesome. So I'm a pretty casual person. I like to think that my people think I'm approachable. I think informal is great because you don't have to worry about saying the wrong thing or asking a dumb question, which, really there are none. I always welcome anyone who's interested in his questions. So formal or informal, do whatever you can. If there's a formal one, participate. If you meet someone at a Mugs and Mentors event or a BioBuzz event, and you're looking at them and you're like, that's kind of where I'd like to be in 10 years. Just reach out. Be humble and see if they would, chat with you about a few things. Now let's talk about some truths, right? In a mentor-mentee relationship, you can build a comrade, sometimes even a confidant. I have some people that I've mentored for years, and it's become to the point where I consider them a lifelong friend. And it won't matter what company they work for. If we work for the same company, I don't think it'll change. I've got a lifelong relationship, which is awesome. You can build adherence to company goals, direction, and efficiency, right? I wish more companies had a formal mentoring program, just because it provides a way for people to connect and discuss things when otherwise they wouldn't. And when that happens, when people connect like that, the culture becomes more firmed up, right? The direction of the company becomes more firm, and conversations happen that kind of steer people in the same direction, which I think is very important to retention of people and company growth as well. You can gain an advocate, like I was saying. If you embrace a mentor-mentee relationship with someone and really develop a friendship, a really good colleague relationship, you could have a lifelong advocate for you, for your career, for networking connections. Say Joe's your mentor, and you talk for years, and you develop a mutual respect for each other. Joe goes on to another company, and he's like, you know what? I remember Bob. Bob was awesome. I would love to have Bob here. This would be a step up for him. And now here you have an advocate of someone who can really pull you along, and help you find your next step up in your career. And then I already talked about, the possibilities of gaining a lifetime friend is fantastic, right? It happens. So seek to mentor continued. As you mentor and kind of spread out with people and develop a mentor-mentee relationship, you obviously expand your network, which is awesome. You never know when you talk to someone who knows so-and-so, who has an opportunity. It's just fantastic to go out there and mingle and develop this relationship for your networking ability as well. You can greatly reduce conflict, and encourage understanding and alignment, right? When a company or a department or a division has mentoring, like active mentoring occurring, you for sure will have less conflict in the company for sure. It fosters a working together mentality. It fosters a agreement, right? A synergy where people are working together for the same goal, as opposed to kind of drifting out there in silos, which is very important. Another advantage, you bring the collective pool of knowledge and experience up in our area, right? When we do a Mugs and Mentors event, there might be someone who graduated college 2 months ago. They're very new in the industry, but now all of a sudden they get to hear things about someone who is in quality engineering, or someone who is in microbiology, someone who is doing, auditing of a quality system. And that's something that they would never have in their role. I've known people in my career, and this even happened to me early on, where it's like, oh, John's good at that. Let's just keep him doing that. Maybe I was temperature mapping 10 units at a time. They're like, wow, John's really good at that. Let's make him our temperature mapping guy, right? Sometimes that happens because you become proficient at something. If you're able to engage in a mentoring program, you can start to pique your interest and fulfill your curiosity. And man, I really would like to do other things. I'd really like to do a steam in place, an SIP on a bioreactor, but I don't have the opportunity. In a mentoring situation, you can begin to talk to people that have done that. Once again, Bob has done SIPs for the last 15 years. He can tell you all about it. And you can start to bring that into your tool belt. Even though you've not done it, you start to understand what it is, why we do it, what defines a successful SIP, and things like that. And that helps like your company, and that helps your, the area. Our area begins to grow in knowledge, which is great for all companies, operating companies, service companies, everything. Another advantage, you increase efficiency and output within the area, right? People will begin to be able to do more. As you are kind of meandering around and gaining a mentor or mentoring, you'll start to make connections with people that don't do CQV. Maybe you have a biology degree and you're like, I'd kind of like to go back to my degree. Microbiology, that person at the event, they're a microbiologist. I'm going to talk to them. And it also fosters like the ability for you to talk about other things in the industry and think, almost like, what is the day in the life of a microbiologist? I've always wanted to know. I cut my teeth in validation. What does that mean? What does that look like? So there's conversations can happen, and you can grow from that. And then as a mentor, you're keeping your knowledge fresh, and it challenges you to learn more. When some of our standards are updated and revised, like Annex 1 happened a few years ago, this is a fantastic opportunity and point of discussion to have with your mentor or mentee about, hey, they changed this. Now this is required, or this has changed, and they are now not as concerned about this because of this other control that is in place. So great ways to keep your knowledge fresh and up to date. I kind of touched on the networking opportunities, right? Because if you are working on a project and you're kind of isolated alone, it's hard to know who to talk to. These industry groups are great catalysts to kind of get you out there and mingling with people and give you opportunities to reach out to someone who's maybe not in your project, so that it's a total non-biased person that you can talk to, which is great. International Society of Pharmaceutical Engineers, ISPE, is a huge one that I'm very involved in. I think they are having a Mugs and Mentor event in April, and like early to mid-April. Is something to look for, and you can see that on LinkedIn. Follow any of these groups on LinkedIn. I think most of them are very active on LinkedIn. ASQ is American Society for Quality. They have good events where you can really start to mingle with the quality side of things. Quality engineers, quality auditors, various forms of quality, and they have good certifications that you can study for and get. I became a certified calibration technician from ASQ in 2014. Their certifications are very challenging and a good way to grow. Yeah, awesome. Yep. Very good. BioBuzz is another one. Obviously, we're here for BioBuzz. It's fantastic, and very active. I've enjoyed even getting to know Kayla the little bit that I have, and talk about what's coming with AI, what's coming in the industry, what is it going to look like in 10 years, and just those conversations.